All right, let's kick things off today. We're diving into a pretty massive announcement from Apple.
Oh, yeah, the big manufacturing news.
Exactly. They've just pledged another $100 billion towards U.S. manufacturing.
Wow, another 100 billion.
Yeah, and, it sounds like just a huge number, but it's actually a really complex story. Lots of layers here: tech, economics, politics.
Right.
So our goal today really is to cut through some of that noise and figure out what this actually means for you, whether you follow tech or the economy or just policy in general.
Yeah, building on that, our mission here is to really unpack the details. We want to look at what the supporters are saying, what the critics are saying, and try to understand what this huge investment, truly signifies for Apple itself, for the U.S. economy, and maybe even globally. It's not just about the dollars and cents.
Definitely not.
It's the implications,
Yeah.
the why behind it, and maybe what signals we should all be watching for next.
Okay, so let's lay out the basics first, what actually happened.
Well, the core fact is Apple adding that $100 billion commitment.
Right, and it's part of this bigger thing they call the American Manufacturing Program, the AMP.
Yes, AMP. And that brings their total stated U.S. commitments, I think, to $600 billion over the next 4 years.
That's the figure, yeah. $600 billion. And it was a pretty high-profile announcement, wasn't it, at a White House event?
It was, yeah, with President Trump. Apple and Reuters both highlighted that this is framed, quite explicitly, as a move to bring more of the supply chain advanced manufacturing back stateside.
And the goal being?
The stated goal is reducing exposure to tariff risks, especially, for key products like the iPhone.
Okay, Karis, that brings in the political angle straight away.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting is the immediate reaction from the administration.
How so?
Well, it fits perfectly with President Trump's push to sort of reward companies investing domestically.
Right, made in America.
Exactly. And there were suggestions, from the Wall Street Journal and even the White House itself that maybe companies doing this, expanding U.S. manufacturing, might get, let's say, preferential treatment.
Like tariff carve-outs.
Potentially, yeah. Or some other benefits. It really sets the stage for understanding the political dimension here.
So you can already feel the different currents, can't you? The official announcement sounds straightforward, but the real meat of the story seems to be in the reactions and what it all truly signifies.
Beyond the press release.
Yeah, because the market, the public,
Yeah.
people seem to have quite different takes on this.
That's right. Very different viewpoints emerging.
So let's unpack those. On one side, you've got this bullish analyst view. What's their main argument? What are they seeing here?
Okay, so the bullish camp, the ones you see quoted in financial analysis, they largely see this as a pretty smart strategic move by Apple.
Smart how?
For long-term risk management, mainly, and, political insulation. The idea is, by committing more to the U.S., Apple is diversifying its supply chain.
Away from just China, for instance.
Exactly. Away from these geographically concentrated risks. It acts as a kind of hedge against, escalating trade tensions, future tariffs, stuff like that.
Okay, so it's like buying insurance for their future operations, making sure they have market access.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. Buying insurance, it's seen as a shrewd pivot considering the whole geopolitical climate right now.
Makes sense. That's the strategic angle.
Right.
But then you have this other group, the critics, who are way more skeptical. Their take is more like, it's optics.
Right. That's the counter argument you hear from places like, say, Yahoo Finance or the Daily Star. They really challenge the economics and maybe the genuineness of the commitment.
What's their core point?
Their big question is this actually new money? Or is it just, restating existing plans, maybe accelerating spending that was going to happen anyway, but wasn't necessarily all for manufacturing?
Okay.
And they point to the obvious cost difference. U.S. labor, production. It's significantly more expensive than their established global chains.
So the question becomes, who pays for that?
Precisely. If Apple really shifts significant production, do they absorb those higher costs? That would hit their margins, which are famously high.
Or do they pass it on to us, the consumers, with higher prices?
That's the other possibility. So for these critics, until they see actual shovels in the ground for new factories or major new supplier contracts being announced,
Just talk.
it remains, in their view, largely a high-profile PR move. Maybe designed more to get political goodwill than to fundamentally change how iPhones are made.
Wow, okay. That puts the two sides in pretty stark contrast, doesn't it?
It really does.
So boiling it down, you've got the bullish view, strategic risk management.
Yeah.
And the skeptical view is mostly optics, and faces big economic hurdles.
Yep.
And the central tension is this a real economic shift for Apple, or is it mostly about politics?
That's the core question everyone's trying to figure out. And if we connect that to investors, what the sources suggest is, well, there's maybe an immediate benefit,
Which is
political and tariff hedging. By making this big public splash, aligning with policy priorities, Apple has kind of lowered its political risk profile.
okay. Reduce the tail risk of getting hit hard by tariffs or regulations.
Exactly. Reuters and the Wall Street Journal pointed this out. It can potentially lower the regulatory risk premium associated with the company.
Got it. So that's the short-term political angle for investors. What about longer term?
Medium long term. It all comes down to execution and, well, the actual economics.
Right.
The tough questions that the critics are raising, the ones we just talked about, they don't go away. How much is really new capital investment?
Versus just reallocated spending.
Right. And where specifically are these new factories or, fabs, fabrication plants going to be built? That matters.
And the cost question.
Crucially, yeah. Will higher U.S. costs squeeze Apple's profit margins, or will we see price hikes on iPhones and other products?
So until we see concrete plans, actual factory announcements, specific supplier deals.
The critics will argue it's, largely optics, as Yahoo Finance and the Daily Star put it.
Okay, so for you listening to this, trying to make sense of it all, what should you actually watch for? What are the actionable signals here?
The sources actually give us some pretty clear markers.
Like what?
First, look for real site-level announcements from Apple. Timelines, too. Are they actually planning new factories? Where?
If they announce specific sites, that's a strong signal. If not,
It leans more towards the optics argument, maybe. Second, keep an eye on filings with the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission.
capex findings, capital expenditure.
Exactly. From Apple itself or from its big suppliers, think Han, Foxconn, Pegatron, maybe TSMC's partners. That shows where the real money is flowing.
Okay, so follow the money. What else?
Third, watch for any formal moves from the government, any actual tariff exemptions, new rules, or specific guidance linked to this program.
Especially since some sources flag that possibility.
Right. If the White House, Commerce, Treasury announce something specific, that's a big development. Fourth, listen closely to Apple's next earnings call.
For commentary on timing, margin impact.
Yep. What do they say about when this spending happens and how it might affect their bottom line? And finally, watch the suppliers.
Who actually gets the contracts?
Exactly. Which companies announce deals tied to this U.S. manufacturing push? Their stock prices often react first. That tells you who the market thinks the winners are.
That's a really practical list of things to track.
Hopefully helpful. And maybe stepping back, if we connect all this to the bigger picture, what does this whole episode, Apple's big move, and all these varied reactions actually tell us?
About what?
About this really complex dance, between giant corporation strategies, government policies, and these incredibly intricate global supply chains we rely on.
It's tangled.
It is. And how do we, just as informed observers, learn to distinguish between, say, a genuine, significant economic shift and really clever strategic public relations?
That's the million-dollar question. Or maybe the $100 billion question here.
Right. It really raises a fundamental point, doesn't it? When big tech makes these huge promises, who really benefits in the end?
What's the true cost or the true value beyond that massive headline number?
Exactly. Something for all of us to think about.